During the pandemic, so many of us learned how powerful the LA County Board of Supervisors actually is. It's the reason they call them the Five Queens. 5 supervisors, each representing more than 2 million constituents and controlling most of the important county government functions. I mean, really, more powerful than most governors in this country. So now, as Supervisor Sheila Kuehl prepares to retire, there's a rare open seat on the board, setting up a close race between State Senator Bob Hertzberg, who's been in politics for decades, and Lindsey Horvath.
Councilmember Lindsey Horvath was elected to the West Hollywood City Council in 2015, serving twice as the city's mayor, including during the early days of the pandemic in 2020. In the race for county supervisor, she's been endorsed by the likes of the LA County Democratic Party, the Planned Parenthood Advocacy Project of LA, and the LA Times.
Yeah. Welcome, Lindsey Horvath. Great to see you. And
Good to see you too.
We've invited Bob Hertzberg as well, and he's expected to join us before the election as well. So let's start with elections are always a choice.
Yes.
Especially when you got 2 Democrats like this running who have a lot of friends in the Democratic Party. What is the biggest difference between you and Bob Hertzberg, and what does that actually mean for the voters if you're in there versus him?
Well, I come with the experience that's required for this seat. In LA County, the most consistent thing I hear from folks in the district is they want to see the county resources actually reaching them in their neighborhoods. And bridging that gap in service between the county and our local communities, our local cities, is incredibly important, whether we're talking about homelessness, safety, protecting our environment. To your point about the Democrats, you know, I'm the only one who's actually endorsed by the party, and the majority of all of the Democratic clubs that have endorsed in this race. Only candidate endorsed by Planned Parenthood, only candidate endorsed by the LA Times, and all of the environmental organizations that have endorsed in this race. So my record is clear, and my focus in this race is making sure that we address the homelessness crisis, because that's top of mind for everyone, no matter where we go.
Well, okay, so you just mentioned homelessness crisis, then let's just jump to that. I think we can do that. What is the biggest differentiating factor between your plan to help the homeless crisis versus your challengers?
Well, I have a plan, and he doesn't, so that's the biggest difference. What we've done in our city is we've been able to get about 80% of folks off the streets and into housing services, or both. We have a variety of street teams that go out every day of the week to meet people where they are, connect them with the services that either we fund in our city or are funded by the county, make sure that they are provided transportation to get there, connect them with mental health care services, with addiction recovery services, and we follow them through that system. So we get them into housing and the care that they need, which helps them get stabilized and stay off the streets. What we hear consistently is people getting frustrated about people being pushed from corner to corner or neighborhood to neighborhood. What we really do is follow them through that system. And we work with social service agencies who we contract with, but also contract with the county, so we know that the county trusts them. And they also can scale up as they get more resources, so we can work to make sure that they have the resources they need to do the job. And they actually even hire people who themselves were formerly unhoused, so they're able to build trust and rapport. And I think that's why they've had success convincing people that the services and support that LA County offers and that we offer in our community can be trusted. And we've had some lessons learned, and I think those lessons will be very important for LA County. About 4 years ago, we brought LA County into our city council meeting. We had a conversation with them, asking them, you know, what can we be doing that we're not already doing? Because our residents, even back then, were already frustrated about this crisis. And we saw that their response was, actually, we need to be doing what you're doing. And 4 years later, they're still not doing what we're doing. So it's incredibly frustrating, but I know that we have a plan to actually address these issues.
So one of the functions of the board, which we learned during the pandemic, of course, is to oversee the County Board of Health and to hire and fire the county health director. Do you think that Barbara Ferrer is doing a good job? And would you support keeping her in that job, or would you want her out of that job if you're now making that decision?
Well, I think we need to have the most qualified person in that job, and so I'm going to reserve judgment on any personnel decisions until I have the honor of serving in that seat. But it's clear that people had a lot of questions and concerns during this time of crisis. Leading my city, we heard from businesses, you know, who were frustrated, who were confused. You know, there was a press conference with the governor at noon. We were supposed to, on the local level, provide code enforcement to actually enforce what the rules and regulations were. But we didn't know by 5 o'clock at night when people were, maybe going out at night or maybe not able to go out at night at all. And so we heard those frustrations firsthand, and we have to make sure that we're making those changes in the public health department, deputizing people who have an understanding of the local regions that they serve, and making sure that the public health department is actually responding to what's happening on the ground.
So that doesn't sound like a great review.
Well, I think that if you've got somebody who's done a better job, I'm certainly happy to see their resume and see what they've done. But I think the county delivered as best they could during this time of crisis. But we also know that there's a lot of room for improvement, and we have to learn from what that experience was.
Okay, we have about a minute left. We mentioned your endorsement from the Planned Parenthood Advocacy Project of LA. Meanwhile, these flyers are circulating and being sent to homes. Right now, it says abortion is like murdering babies with your face and your name. So where do you stand on this issue?
I find those mailers absolutely disgusting. Being pro-choice means making sure that everyone has the right to make their own decisions. I am 100% pro-choice, not only in my voting record, but in the work that I have done. This is a classic example of what Ann Richards said about Ginger Rogers and Fred Astaire. This man is attacking me just saying words based on political calculations, hoping that it helps win him enough votes to win this seat. For me, this is personal. I've had to make this decision as a woman. I've had to make a decision when I found out that I was pregnant, and I had to decide what I was going to do. These are not issues that should be taken lightly. These are not issues that should be weaponized against people. He knows what my record is, and he's just hoping that by lying to people through his special interest funding, that he's going to confuse enough voters so he wins this seat. My record is clear. It's why I'm the only candidate endorsed not only by Planned Parenthood, but every single pro-choice organization that has endorsed in this race has endorsed me.
And this was paid for, by the way, by the Housing Providers for Responsible Solutions, not authorized by a candidate or committee controlled by a
Actually, the
candidate.
landlords and the realtors, and I am a renter. I would be the only renter on the Board of Supervisors. That's why they're funding that.
And by the way, Ginger Rogers had to do everything backwards in high heels.
And in high heels, which I'm wearing.
What the line is. Yeah.
Me too.
Nice high heels.
Me too.
All right. Thank you very much for coming in. We appreciate you sharing your perspective. Good luck out on the campaign trail.
Thank you.
Your poll shows that this race is tied.
Yep, we're
which
tied.
is why if you care about this race, vote.
Yes,
Vote.
absolutely. It's a dead heat. We need people to focus on this race. It's incredibly important.
All right. Thanks so much, Lindsey
Thank
Horvath.
you.